Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know we love digging into data, and today we're talking about some fascinating Spotify data you sent us
Oh, yeah.
about gender representation in music.
Yeah. Really interesting stuff.
It is. We're going to take a really good look at the top 1,000 most successful artists of all time list. And that includes...
Streaming numbers.
Yeah, streaming numbers, of course, earnings, and where in the world these artists are from.
Global view.
Yeah, the whole picture. So what you really want to know is...
The big question.
Yeah. Does this data prove that the music industry favors men, or...
Or is there something else going on here? Is there more to the story?
Yeah, is there a bigger story here?
Absolutely.
Welcome to Gender Decoded, where numbers align, seeing the stories that data defines, breaking the barriers, truth untold, insights in gender, the data unfolds.
We're going to be looking at some research and analysis done on Spotify's top 1,000 most successful artists of all time.
Okay.
And we're going to try to go through this data and find some
Interesting insights.
some surprising trends.
Yeah. What's really interesting about this is that it gives us a new lens to look at these existing inequalities.
Yeah.
Streaming services, while creating incredible opportunities, also are providing this treasure trove of data that's really revealing.
Right.
And it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right into it.
Okay.
One of the first things that kind of hit me was that just the sheer dominance of male artists at the top.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking 55.2% compared to women at 15.7%.
Wow.
That's a big gap.
Yeah, it's significant, and it really mirrors broader trends in the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
But what's, I think, even more eye-opening is the earnings disparity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so male artists have earned 3 times as much as female artists.
Wow.
The difference is $12 billion to $4 billion.
Wow, okay, so 12 billion for men, 4 billion for women?
Yes.
That's a pretty huge gap.
Yes, very significant.
What do you think is contributing to this?
I mean, there's a lot of factors that could be at play here. One theory is that women are often kind of pigeonholed into genres that are seen as less commercially viable or lucrative.
Okay.
Another possibility is that they just receive less investment from record labels.
Less promotional support.
Less promotional support, exactly. And that, of course, impacts their ability to reach a wider audience.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of factors that go into play.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just who's at the top of the charts.
Right.
But the structure of how we even get to the top of the charts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about the whole system, the systemic structures that are in place.
Right.
That might be holding women back. It's a complex issue.
For sure. And there's also this really fascinating paradox, right? That that the data mentions.
This is where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so while men kind of dominate the overall rankings,
Mm-hmm.
women sometimes experience higher peaks in monthly listeners.
Mm.
In other words, men may have more sustained success, but women can reach these incredibly high levels of popularity.
Okay.
At least for shorter periods of time.
So are we saying that women's music is experiencing these shorter bursts of intense popularity
Potentially.
compared to the consistent visibility of men?
It seems like that's what the data is suggesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely a question worth exploring further.
What could be driving that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it about the way music is marketed and promoted?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that the industry is quicker to kind of capitalize on trends?
Mm.
Which leads to a shorter lifespan for certain genres or sounds that are often associated with female artists.
Okay.
Or, could there be something else entirely at play?
Yeah.
This is where we have to kind of delve deeper into those nuances of the industry.
Yeah. Wow. This data is really making us think.
Right.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to uncover.
Absolutely.
We've got the dominance of men at the top. We got this huge earnings gap.
Yeah.
Now we have this really intriguing paradox of listening patterns.
Right.
There's definitely more to this story than meets the eye.
For sure. And it's it doesn't stop at the artist either. This imbalance really ripples through the entire music industry, the whole ecosystem.
Right.
Affecting, the songwriters, the producers, the engineers, everybody involved.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It makes you wonder if this lack of representation at the top,
Mm-hmm.
like trickles down and then creates less opportunities for women at all levels of the industry.
Precisely. Yeah, but amidst all these like kind of sobering statistics,
Right.
the research actually offers some like glimmers of hope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one of the most like promising findings is that female artists, when they do break through, they often attract a broader and more diverse audience.
Oh, so there's actually data that suggests women in music have a broader appeal.
It seems that way.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Like, does that point to like an untapped market
Potentially, yeah.
that the industry is just like missing out on?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly an audience out there that's hungry for more diverse voices. And, perhaps by not, promoting female artists adequately, the industry is kind of overlooking this significant market opportunity.
Yeah, it makes me think about like our roles as listeners.
Right.
Like our choices have power, right?
You do.
If we like actively seek out and support female artists, could we actually help shift these trends?
Without a doubt, yeah. Every stream, every download, every concert ticket sends a message to the industry about what audiences value.
Okay.
So, as listeners, we have that power to kind of champion the artists that we want to hear. And, by supporting female musicians, we can contribute to a more equitable music landscape.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's encouraging.
Okay, so let's kind of zoom out a bit
Okay.
and take a look at how these patterns like play out around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a visual map here showing the distribution of top artists by country and gender.
Right.
And what strikes you when you first look at this map?
Well, the most immediate observation is just like the overwhelming prevalence of blue,
Okay.
which represents male artists. It's pretty stark. It's a visual representation of how widespread this imbalance is.
Yeah, it is pretty sobering to see it like laid out like that.
It is.
But wait a minute, there are definitely some like splashes of pink on the map too, right?
Right.
Like what's going on in those areas?
Yeah, those pockets of pink are very telling. We see, stronger female representation in certain regions, most notably in like Scandinavian countries, okay, Sweden and Norway.
Interesting. Why do you think those countries stand out?
Well, one key factor is that those countries have implemented policies and initiatives
Okay.
that are specifically designed to like support and promote female musicians.
So it's not just like a cultural shift. It's
No.
like they're taking concrete actions to level the playing field.
Exactly.
Like what kind of policies are we talking?
Well, for example, Sweden has, government funding programs that specifically support female artists and music entrepreneurs.
Oh, wow.
They've also made efforts to ensure gender balance in like music education and festival lineups, things like that.
Wow. Those are some pretty proactive measures.
They are.
Do we see any evidence that like these types of initiatives are actually making a difference?
Absolutely. Yeah. The higher representation of female artists in those countries
Okay.
definitely suggests that those policies are having a tangible impact. It demonstrates that with, targeted effort and investment, it's possible to cultivate a more like equitable music scene.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah,
It's a great example for other countries to look to, to try to address this issue.
for sure.
But what about places where those kinds of government-supported programs aren't in place?
Right.
What can be done, like on a more grassroots level?
That's a great question. I mean, even without like those large-scale policy changes, there's still a lot that can be done. Independent organizations, music venues, even individual listeners can play a role in championing female artists and, demanding greater representation.
Okay.
So it's really a collective effort.
Yeah, it's easy to get like bogged down in the negative statistics.
Yeah,
But hearing about like these success stories
right.
and the potential for change,
It is inspiring.
yeah.
It really is inspiring.
Yeah, it shows that progress is possible.
It does. And it highlights that this isn't just like some abstract issue,
Okay.
It's about like real people, real talent. Yeah.
Real talent, real opportunities.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've like explored the data, we've seen the global patterns, and we've uncovered some like hopeful examples of what's working.
Yeah.
But like, where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that while there's like a long way to go, change is possible.
Absolutely.
We've seen that data can be like a really powerful tool to expose these inequalities, but also to highlight like
Right.
potential solutions and areas for growth.
Exactly. And I think, the most important message for our listeners is that
Yeah.
their choices really matter.
Okay.
We can all be a part of the solution by actively seeking out and supporting female artists, amplifying their voices, and demanding greater representation from the industry.
It's about being conscious consumers of music,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think that's a great way to put it.
Like making a deliberate effort to diversify our playlists.
Explore new genres and support the artists that resonate with us.
Absolutely.
Regardless of gender.
Imagine the incredible music that we're missing out on.
Yeah.
Because talented female artists aren't getting the same opportunities.
Right.
It's not just a loss for them, it's a loss for all of us.
Thinking back to that visual map,
Right.
I was struck by how the areas with stronger female representation had actively implemented
Correct.
policies and programs to support women in music.
Yeah.
What can listeners in other parts of the world do
Mm-hmm.
to advocate for similar initiatives?
That's a great question. I mean, it's about engaging in those conversations, raising awareness,
Yeah.
and supporting organizations that are working to promote gender equality in the music industry.
Okay.
It could be as simple as contacting your local representatives,
Mm.
supporting independent music venues that prioritize diverse lineups,
Right.
or even just talking to your friends about the music you love and why representation matters.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about taking the insights
Mhm.
we've learned in this deep dive
Right.
and turning them into action.
Absolutely.
We can all be advocates for change in our own way.
We can. Yeah. And, remember, this isn't just about fairness.
Yeah.
It's about enriching the musical landscape for everyone.
Mhm.
A more diverse and inclusive industry means, a wider range of voices, perspectives, creative expressions.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
We've uncovered some
Yeah.
sobering realities,
Right.
but we've also discovered reasons for optimism and a path forward.
We have indeed. And who knows, maybe the next time we look at that map,
Yeah.
we'll see even more splashes of pink representing all that incredible talent
Right.
and the contributions of women in music.
I love that vision.
Me too.
All right, so to all our listeners out there, go explore, discover, and amplify the voices of women in music.
Yes.
It's time to change the tune and build a more vibrant and equitable music world for all of us.
I completely agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those ears open and those minds curious.